Hi, this is Mrs. Booth with Guidelines for Success lesson for ELA and Science. This recording will be available for both ELA and Science in the class recordings. There's no need to watch it twice. If you watch it for ELA, you won't need to watch it for Science and vice versa. So let's get started. First of all, at Louisiana Virtual Charter Academy, we have a mission. And this is what LAVCA stands for, Louisiana Virtual Chart Academy. And the mission is to prepare each student for a successful future through a virtual education enhanced by a rigorous curriculum and a supportive learning environment. And one of the things I point out to the students at the beginning of the year is this important phrase right here. It's supportive learning environment. We are creating a supportive learning environment. One way we do that is by offering Class Connect sessions, live sessions, small group sessions for students to enhance what they're doing in their studies at home. So let's take a look at Guidelines for Success for 5th graders at LAVCA. I like to use an acronym of LAVCA to help us remember what our guidelines for success are. These are the things that we do in order to feel successful at LAVCA 5th grade classes. And by the end of the year, these should all be very familiar to the students. And we'll go over them in class at the beginning of class every Tuesday and Thursday, just to help remind them of what we're talking about. So we'll go over each of these individually, and I will actually discuss them in depth and have some activities in class to help remember what they are. But just briefly, Guidelines for Success with the acronym of LAVCA are Learn Well, Act Responsibly, Visualize Success, Cooperate with Others, and Always Try. One of the activities we discuss for Learn Well is to describe what it feels like to learn well. Every student knows when they've learned something well enough to teach it, and that's what I mean by learning well. If you learn something, you can learn it and then just forget it or not understand it the next day or even the next minute possibly. But if you learn something well, you are learning it well enough that you could teach it to somebody else. And that means it is a part of you. It's integral to your learning, and it's not something you're going to easily forget. Next, we talk about act responsibly. And there are some very specific things we're going to discuss in class about how to act responsibly in an online class. It could become very easy to be irresponsible in an online class, but we're going to outline how you act responsibly. For Visualize Success, I always ask students, have you ever imagined yourself winning something? What do you look like? What do you sound like? What do you feel like? This, to the brain, visualizing success in learning is no different than actually learning. The brain doesn't distinguish between the visualization and the actual activity. So I always remind students to see themselves winning or doing well at something, and in this case, learning. You may not think of cooperation as an important concept in online learning because our students are virtually alone most of the time, or with their learning coach. But the cooperation in online learning, and especially here at LAVCA, is critically important to our mission. And I ask students to think about who they need to cooperate with at LAVCA, and they come up with all of the right answers in class. So cooperate with others is a critically important idea when we're talking about Guidelines for Success. In Always Try, the last letter of the acronym, I ask students what things do they need to do several times. They have stories in their life of something that they've had to do more than once. Sometimes we have to do things several times in order to learn them and in order to accomplish the task. So always try is an important idea that I get across to students, and it is helpful to them, especially as they enter 5th grade when things become a bit more challenging. Finally, I have students try to remember what does LAVCA stand for, and I encourage them to write as many as they can remember in class. By the 2nd or 3rd week, they have it memorized, and they are well on their way to being successful at LAVCA in the 5th grade.